It's a head bobber of a song, that's for certain. This is Tom Berg from Providence Holy Cross Medical Center, actually the orthopedic program manager, but here today with Providence Holy Cross Health Hour, and we are joined on this kind of blustery, warm day here in Santa Clarita, coming to you from the studios, with Dr. Kalani, our palliative care guru over at Providence Holy Cross Medical Center. And just before we get back to our discussion, just want to remind everybody, for those of you who are driving around and the such, you can pick us up on the KHTS app. Please be sure to make sure you download that, because it works on your Android, works on the iPhone. And for those of you who drive into the Valley on your way maybe to Holy Cross, like we will be as soon as we're done here today, right about the 210, we kind of lose the signal for KHTS. And, frankly, there's an awful lot of good discussions that are going on, and some really good music, too, in the afternoons, and be able to pick up our traffic, which as of recent has been just a bit rough driving around here. So make sure you pick up your KHTS app. Make sure you get it on your phone, get it on your iPad, so that way you can kind of keep a tune of what's going on, regardless of where you're at. That way you don't have to be just in Santa Clarita. So Dr. Kalani, thank you again for coming out on your anniversary day, your pre-Disneyland trip, in case your kids aren't listening. Hopefully they're not, because then the secret's out. But we just got finished talking about palliative care. And maybe before we move on to the next piece is just hospice care now. What is hospice care?
So hospice care is reserved, it's actually a Medicare guideline. It is the type of care that's provided to a patient who has a prognosis of less than 6 months with a terminal illness.
Gotcha.
So knowing that patient has a very short period of time and has no longer any curative or disease modifying treatments available, that is when a patient would then qualify for hospice. So what does that mean? A patient who is waiting for a transplant would not be a candidate for hospice. Right. A patient who is receiving chemotherapy for their cancer would not be a candidate for hospice. So on the opposite end, a patient who is no longer a candidate for chemotherapy or radiation, a patient who is at the terminal end of their organ disease, or if they have the severe effects of dementia, Alzheimer's dementia. Those are the patients that hospice is really the key type of treatment to provide them at that point in time. And it's team dependent. So it is provided by a hospice team. Providence does have Trinity Hospice as our sister hospice. And so our hospice patients are very well cared for.
That's great. That's great. And that kind of leads in very nicely. I know that you had a very big involvement with something that just wrapped up. I mean, we truly are only days away, right, from the show closing. But at the Museum of Tolerance, there was an unbelievably well-received program that ran there called Right Before I Die. And it was so exciting to be able to see, because there was a lot of excitement regarding your involvement, and just the general population, the community really kind of wrapped their arms around this this display. And artist Andrew George, who did an absolutely stunning job, and the number of talkers that came out. I think Dr. Miller delivered a tremendous discussion, TED-like discussion, when he was speaking on kind of the medical community's dysfunctional relationship with death. And I it's isn't that amazing? I mean, it's just something else. And tell me, how did you become involved? Because you were a very key component, as were some of your patients, right?
Yeah, so I got introduced to Andrew through a friend of ours, Pat Adam, who is actually our media relations person at Holy Cross, and she lives up here in Santa Clarita. And Pat introduced the topic of trying to profile some palliative care patients, not only through images, but also through interview. and really documenting their experience. And I said, that sounds absolutely wonderful. Bring it on. And Andrew became really part of our palliative care team at that point. So we went through, and every day we would look at our list of patients, and we would try to find a patient that had the endurance to sit through a pretty lengthy interview with Andrew and be up for taking pictures and be part of this experience. And whenever we found a patient that would be appropriate to interview, we would call Andrew in, and he would come in within a couple hours and spend some amazing quality time with these folks. It was to the point where I think one of the people who he interviewed, I believe it was Michael, who had said that he felt as if he was at a confessional. In some ways, really able to share some very delicate, sacred elements of his life that he may not have otherwise shared with people, maybe not in his family or other people in general. But it gave him this very sacred space to share and to allow other people into who he was and what he was experiencing in this time of his life.
That's amazing.
It was really a profound experience. About 20 of the patients, actually, out of the 20 patients, there were 19 of those patients were from Holy Cross.
Oh my gosh.
And from our palliative care team.
Right.
And the other one was another experience that Andrew had come across, another patient that he had come across. He put all of this together into a photo book. And this photo book is actually for sale on his website. He was picked up as an exhibitor in Belgium. It was the Right Before I Die exhibit at the Bruges Museum in Belgium, which
Amazing.
is like the most romantic, amazing little town in Belgium. And that was about almost 2 years ago now. And our next stop was San Francisco. We did that in June, July. And then we were exhibited in the Museum of Tolerance, which was local. And at that opening, it was an amazing experience because half of the families of these patients all of these patients had passed except for that one patient.
Right.
Were there. Their families were present. They had shared about the experience. They were able to see their loved ones again. And I mean, it was just so impactful. That's
just amazing.
Remarkable experience.
That is absolutely. Now these interviews, did that stem into the Hear Me Now piece? That now I was trying to read up on it, and there was something about that it's being archived.
Right.
Tell me about that.
So that process is it's being archived, and what they're going to be archiving it the Library of Congress.
Right.
And the Hear Me Now, it's a series of interviews essentially. It's a similar process about people telling their stories, and this very much is in line with that program.
Oh my gosh!
So we're really excited. We're gaining a lot of traction, and it's really about sharing the experiences of people in dealing with serious illness and what they're facing.
Right.
Because this is real, and we cannot avoid it. Every single person on this earth will die.
Right.
We can't avoid it.
Richard Gere said, "You're not going to survive it, live it."
So we need to find a way, not necessarily to embrace it and love the fact that we're dying, no, but we need to find a way to deal with it better. We need to find a way to help our patients along better. We can't be in denial. I mean, it is a for sure. It's actually more certain that you're going to die than pay taxes. I mean, apparently, Trump's been able to get away with it. So
at least for 18 years.
But I don't know if he's going to get away with not dying. So there you go. So definitely it's something that we need to talk about. It is a very sacred time in life, and we need to embrace it and understand it better and provide more towards it, more support towards it.
Correct. And it's jokingly, I remember driving I don't remember where was a group of us driving someplace, and we were talking about it. It would be nice to hear your eulogy before you go. Wouldn't that be kind of nice? I mean, we should eulogize ourselves every so often, and and part of I'm lucky enough. My dad is still here with us, and I've probably learned more about him just sitting and chatting in the last year than the other 49 years, which is absolutely amazing. And for Andrew to be able to offer that safe space, and it's also to be able to lead a person into being able to answer those questions, to be able to do something like that. What an amazing thing, and to know that it's emblazoned in history now, as it's going to be archived in the Library of Congress. No small feat, by the way.
Right.
So and then your part. So I understood you spoke.
Oh yes. Yeah.
Now, did you get to go to Belgium?
I went to Belgium.
How nice.
I went to Belgium. I went to San Francisco. I was at the Museum of Tolerance. It's really Andrew's beautiful work, and it was our patients.
Right.
It was our community. It wasn't just some random. It was. I can't. I always get speechless around this because it's just so amazing.
Now, for anyone who's listening who's interested, they could probably just Google Right Before I Die, and then they'll be able to find Andrew George is the artist behind this.
That's correct.
And I know they just wrapped up at the Museum of Tolerance about a week ago, actually, about 1 week exactly.
It was extended because it was only supposed to go to the end of September, but popular demand, they were able to extend it.
Awesome.
And it was a very rewarding experience.
Where is it going to next?
Oh my gosh, we have no idea, but we're hoping it's going to go somewhere very special in Washington, D.C. That's our hope. I'm not going to say where.
Okay. Hint, hint, wink, wink. All right. So we're going to want to keep an eye then for that.
Remember, those are our folks from our community, our Holy Cross peeps, that were featured, and I'm not kidding you, it was an international sensation.
Right.
There were articles written about it in Thai, in Greek. I was getting articles that I obviously could not read, and had to have it Google translated.
Right. That's amazing.
But because it's such a unique topic, nobody talks about death. Nobody wants to hear about it. Everyone wants to talk about babies, but nobody wants to talk about the other end of the spectrum.
Right.
So that's why this is just such an important, sacred thing that we need to worry about.
And I think too is that culturally speaking, because that was one of the big pieces during some of the discussions when bringing in some of the different religious leaders and such, was to talk about the cultural differences and the perception of death, and just our neighbors just to the south, they actually with the Dia del Muerte, which is coming up, they embrace it, and they embrace their family members that have died, and they don't look at it as a negative, and their children are raised to respect not only their living relatives, but also the relatives that have died. And I believe other cultures internationally do and have similar thoughts, and to be able to personalize and normalize, I guess, the idea of death here in the States. It's actually kind of an important thing because we're in October, right?
Yeah.
Halloween sets the concept of what death is going to be in the movies, what we get a chance to see and the such. And having had the opportunity to see some of those images, the photographs and the such like that of just some very, very at peace, wonderful people too good. Way too good.
Yeah, it was fun. It was a lot of fun.
Congratulations
Thank
on
you.
that. And I know I'll be keeping my fingers crossed as far as that. And maybe it will show up in Washington, D.C., and that it'll be at a place where it will be able to reach to a number of different people.
Yeah.
Boy, talk about hitting the brakes and making a turn. Something came up in our conversation a little bit earlier in the discussion, being able to work with families and getting the families on board with what maybe the patients are dealing with. And I think this kind of leads in nicely into the concept of an advance directive,
Right.
and or living will, and that it would be,
Well,
we talk about
you
this a little bit?
actually already started that process in talking with your dad. You were sharing that you've learned so much about your dad in the last year than you
Right.
have your whole life. I didn't know you were 50. Oh yeah, that's right. I did know you were 50. You don't look
Ish.
you don't look 50, but it's absolutely true. You have to start the conversation, and the earlier, obviously, the better. But it's all about having a really good conversation with the people you love, letting them know what's important to you, and especially around the care of treatments that could sustain your life or could prevent you from dying.
Right.
So it's important to share what is important to you, what you value, what are the things that you consider quality living. And the way to document that is through an advance directive. Every person over the age of 18 should have an advance directive.
I do not have an advance directive.
Ooh, we should form one as soon as we get back to the hospital.
That sounds like a plan.
Okay.
My wife does know what
Amy?
my Yes,
Amy?
Amy does. Amy does know what my wishes are.
Yes, and
which is
that's
very
the
very
first step.
helpful. But it's legally speaking though, it'd be help to have everything documented because that second cousin once removed could step out of the woodwork and say no, absolutely not. This is what we're going to do.
Right.
And that can make things a little bit difficult. And as long as the families understand, what those wishes are, that makes things a much easier. If and when that time comes to have to make those decisions.
Right, and an advance directive can come into play not just necessarily at the end of life, but also can come into play, if you had a situation where you were no longer in the capacity to make your own decisions, then that person can speak for you.
Right.
It's really a gift to that person to help make decisions about you.
Right.
As the person, as the patient. And so it doesn't necessarily have to be an end-of-life situation, but it could be an 18-year-old kid who was in a major car accident, and he really wants his sister, who he really looks up to make the decisions and not his parents.
Correct.
So these situations really do come at play in really all sorts of different scenarios.
And then, we're going to take a quick little break. We'll be wrapping up in a few minutes, but we'll find out how to go about getting that advance directive.
Oh, easy.
And you're kind of hanging out here with us, with Dr. Klein today, myself, Tom Burton, Providence Holy Cross Health Hour with KHTS AM 1220, your hometown station. We'll be right back. And welcome back with Tom Burton and Dr. Kalani, Providence Holy Cross Health Hour on KHTS AM 1220, your hometown station. And we're just wrapping up a discussion on palliative care, hospice care, the Right Before I Die demonstration that was just recently at the Museum of Tolerance. And I think we've wrapped with the commercial. Just before the commercials, we were talking about advance directives. It is important. Everyone should have it because somebody needs to, something or someone needs to be able to speak for someone who might not be able to. So that's great. How do we do it?
Oh, we should do a segment where we're filling one out right here.
Perfect.
On the air.
Right.
I think that would be a lot of fun because boy, is it easy.
Yeah.
It may be a short segment.
A blip.
It's actually accessible to anybody. If you go to the Providence website, you can very easily find, type in under search advanced directives, and there are forms that can be downloaded right there off the spot. In California, they have an amazingly simple form that you can pull right off the internet. It's free and is very easy to complete. It doesn't have all that legal jargon. It basically says some pretty simple things. What do you choose for under certain circumstances, what would you choose as to how you would want the care to be delivered to you? And more importantly is also who would be speaking on your behalf.
Right.
That's it. It's so simple. It could be done within minutes, and it doesn't necessarily need to be notarized
I was
either.
just going to ask. So how does it become like a legal document
It
then?
becomes a legal document either by having a notary or two witnesses who are
Okay.
not family members.
Gotcha.
It's really simple.
Gotcha.
And I can't tell you, whenever I see an advance directive come my way at the hospital, I get so excited because that's that person's words as to how they would want us to care for this individual.
Right.
And it's perfect because there's really no debate. There's no discussion. And like I said, it's a gift back to that person who is having to make the decision on that patient's behalf.
Perfect. And then probably helpful to make copies of that.
Yes.
Distribute to
Your
family members.
Family members who are going to be your surrogate, your physician, and if you happen to frequent a hospital such as Holy Cross, bring a copy in, and we'll keep it into our electronic system.
Right.
And it's really going to be, really be a very useful document for us.
Perfect. Well, it's granted a difficult conversation, but to have, and which we did, and I really appreciate because you really spell things out very, very nicely, is what I had recognized as well a few years back. To be able to either get a hold of you or to if there were questions or anything like that, how do they find you?
They can find me at Holy Cross. I'm there every day and sometimes on the weekends, Monday through Friday. Just calling the hospital operator and connecting with me, or my email, marwa.kilani@providence.org. That's
Okay.
marwa.kilani.
And hospital number 818-365-8051. That's 818-365-8051. Or we have our 888 number as I filter through. You can call 888-432-5464. And if it's easier, it's 888-HEALING. And they can definitely put you in touch with Dr. Kalani or anywhere within the hospital that you're hoping to be able to reach as far as moving forward with your care. Holy Cross is here to assure that our community and our adjacent communities are going to be receiving the best and utmost care that not only we can deliver, but that everybody deserves. And want to thank everyone for joining us this hour. We'll be back next month in November. Something a little different. I think Justin here and I might be talking about some sports medicine and moving forward with that, especially as we move into our college bowls. I want to thank everyone again for joining us with the Providence Health Hour on KHTS AM 1220, your hometown station.